video is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Mornings of Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki, and today we have one, the only, the OG Mara Jade, Jade Shadow. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so very much for coming on our Women of the Fandom Wednesdays. And I am so excited to talk to you because I have been following you for a long time. I've been following you since before I started YouTubing, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. My pleasure, like I said. So, yeah.
And good morning, sir, to Pupus Cuber, Larry, Mark the Infinitely Tired. Good morning. One of the Bash brothers is here. I do believe I saw Chris Persia here earlier. Yes, the other Bash brother is here. Thank you so much, Wrenches, for being here this morning. Purple Valkyrie, good morning. Shellback, TJC, greetings, sir. Pat S, good morning. Sultan Al Fahim, good morning, Sultan. Good morning, guys. Dave G Sound, Psychodorf 9, good morning, brother. Dave G Sound, Jace 540, good morning. Adega Outlaw, good morning, brother. The Doctor of Disaster and Destruction is here. Larry, good morning. Trinoculus P, I probably already said that. Oh crap, I'm trying to get to y'all. Darth Haster, good morning. Good morning. Catman D, aka DD Myers, is here. Good morning, guys. If I sound just a little tired, it was because I was up late. Winter Hands ASMR. I think we all were. Colin B. Smith, Robert Pearson. I see that you are going to be driving, sir. You have a great drive. Be safe. Thank you so much for listening. Guys, welcome. And again, welcome to Jade Shadow, Mara Jade. So let's dig right into this. What got you involved in YouTube?
Well, actually, it was a combination of a couple things. One primarily is a shout out to Lethal Lightning because of his him being a pain in the ass. I should say an adorable pain in the ass that he was. Every time I would post a comment on Twitter or on YouTube, he was like, "Make a channel, woman," and he would like harass me to no end. So I was like, okay, basically, okay, screw it, I'll do it. I didn't expect anyone to like even subscribe to my channel because I say I'm just a woman with an opinion and a big mouth. So I'm like, fine, I'll do it just to shut you up at this point. And then piggybacking off of that, it was, well, I did have opinions about certain topics, and that was because I was coming from a place where I understood those topics and I was seeing what was going on in pop culture and and like just noticing how it was what I grew up with, what was built up during, I guess, like, my time on this planet was being torn down systematically by these big corporations or these identity politics. And I was like, I can't just stand by and let that happen. So I have to, I guess, like, put my voice out there, inform people, say, this is what we want in entertainment. We just want good stories. We just want good characters. We don't want to be lectured to, especially in places of fiction where it does not belong. Now, you can make a movie or a show with the social commentary to it. I don't give a fuck. And, if that's the premise of the show, then that's the premise of the show. But don't take an existing IP and make it all about preaching, make it all about lecturing, make it all about, hey, if you don't agree with this, you're an ist, and pick an ist. And that's what they like to do. And so that's how I got into YouTube, in a nutshell, essentially.
Methel's such a great guy. I'm so glad that he encouraged you. And you wouldn't believe how many times I've heard that someone encouraged me, especially a guy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were all ists and misogynists, and we don't like girls. That's the last thing I heard was we don't like girls. You don't want a girl in your movie. and
masculinity is toxic. Haven't you figured that out yet? I mean, I like it's here's the irony here of masculinity being toxic. Feminists rail against masculinity, but then they like when the women look like men. So it's and caricatures and games and stuff. So like, what do you want? What do you want? If masculinity is toxic, then why do you want the women to look masculine?
Yeah, and threatening.
I don't get it. I'm just like they cannot see that cognitive disconnect basically. So I'm like looking at this from the outside, going, that's why. And I go against a narrative. So you say, like only men don't want to play, like, say, for example, Last of Us Part 2 because they're transphobic or they're misogynistic. Well, I'm not playing it either, and I'm a woman. So like,
that's right.
So how does that work?
Man, I love that first game too. I really did. I love that story. I loved getting to play as Joel, and then they just shit it all down the toilet. I don't want to get too much off on Last of Us. Eric O'Sullivan with a $15 super chat. Good morning, Valhalla. Today I have freshly roasted Ethiopian harar coffee. I hope I said that correctly. Chocolate note. Great stuff. I got ribs cooking and it smells great in here. Wish I could share a plate. Skull, much love. Thank you so very much, Eric O'Sullivan, for that $15 super chat. You guys keep the fires burning bright in Valhalla, and I'm going to do a big skull at the end of this show. So if I don't show you a video right now, I will. It's coming. Don't worry, Eric. Thank you. I pretty much got here the same way. I had a community, and believe it or not, the end of that community was someone that was not completely truthful with their identity. And because I called them out on it, I basically got told I was a piece of crap, and they used my dislike for 2009 JJ Trek. So, and then that was the end of that. But I pretty much got to hear the same way. I want good entertainment. I want good Star Trek. I want good Star Wars. I have a feeling that you like Star Wars. I have a feeling. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can't pinpoint it either.
Maybe something about the EU in there. But I've been reading the EU since before I moved out of 24 years ago, before I moved out of my parents' house. I'm one of those people that for 3 decades read the EU and loved the EU, and then they stomped all over it, and they made what is now called the sequel trilogy. And I really had, I don't know, I had high hopes, I guess. I didn't think that Disney was going to do what they did. When The Force Awakens ended, I had this idea that when we came back to it, Rey was going to be talking about how she hated those stone stairs because she was going to be hauling water, buckets of water, up those stairs, and
Yeah.
Luke was going to be, putting her through her paces, training her.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we got.
No, we got the Force Skype through the finger touching. That's how you download the Force, basically. So, like me personally, I was I guess in a way hesitant when Disney got rid of the EU, but at the same time, I was like, okay, well, let's see what Disney gives us. And with Force Awakens, I was like, well, I'm seeing it as like, yeah, it's essentially a New Hope, like 2.0 for one way of putting it, because I see the similar beats, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, maybe, and I feel like I was making excuses for them, and I don't like the fact that I was doing it at the time. But like, well, maybe they're just dipping their toes in the water. They don't want to exactly come out and just do their own thing necessarily just yet. When I say own thing, I mean like actually, like story wise, since they got rid of the EU. And then The Last Jedi came out, and I left the theater not knowing what to think. And my brother asked me what I thought, and it's like I can't give you an answer. I got basically ruminate on this.
Yeah,
you go see him. You go see the movie and let me know what you think. Because he was seeing it. I saw it the Friday it came out, and he saw it the following Sunday with friends. So when I knew the movie would be over or close to being over, I texted him like, "So what do you think?" And his immediate response to me was "It's horse's ass."
Yep.
I was like, yeah, that's pretty much how I got the point I got to.
I had that exact same conversation with my dad, because I called him right after, and I was like, "Yeah, we just got out of theater." He's like, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "I don't know. Well, was it good? I don't know. I have to have time to process. You go see it, and you tell me what you think."
Yeah,
and that was his it's horseshit. That was horseshit.
Pretty much.
And Mexican Iron Man with $14.99 super chat. Jade with most observant quote ever. If masculinity is toxic, then why are all the female characters being made to look masculine? Dang, brilliant. P.S. This rip talk is killing me, Eric. Hi, Jade. Shout out.
Hey, Mexican Iron Man.
Thank you, Mexican Iron Man, for that $14.99 super chat, brother. We will be playing a couple of skulls at the end of this for everyone who throws in a super chat. What has your experience been? I mean, I know what would you tell our audience that your experience has been inside this fandom since then?
I mean, what's really been, for the most part, no different than being essentially part of fandoms growing up. Like, the narrative is that these fandoms, whether it be Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, or the comic side like DC Comics, Marvel, or whatnot, that it's always been like a He-Man woman haters club. It's like always been like, basically a boys club and no girls allowed. And I say, well, I grew up with all of this. Granted, when I was a little girl, I did watch girly things. I watched My Little Pony and
of course,
Rainbow Bright and so forth. But as I got older, I gradually gravitated. To me, it's like if I like it, if I'm interested in it, it doesn't matter if it's marketed to girls or boys. I gravitated towards like Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, Batman. I watched X-Men cartoons. I watched most everything, Thundercats, Johnny Quest, that was marketed towards boys, but it didn't matter to me because I liked it. And I was never told I couldn't be part of anything. If anything, it was the guys in the fandom that were actually more welcoming to women, because it's like if you came in and if you knew your shit, they respected you. If you didn't know your shit, they respected you if you asked.
Yes.
Hey, can you tell me about this? I don't know. Rather than going in and acting like you did know what you were talking about. They respected you more if you admitted you didn't know much about it, because they were willing to bring you in and say, okay, if you want to start with this, you got to start with this comic, or you got to start with this episode, or whatever. They were willing to guide you and teach you. It was girls. I found that if they weren't part of that fandom, were like the bigger bullies in a sense, because they would tease any girls that were nerdy and like didn't get like into like fashion or makeup or things like that, like to the extent they were. So fast forward to when The Last Jedi came out, when I guess essentially the fandom emerged again, so to speak. It was like really no different. You come in, you say like, this is my opinion and I have facts to back up this opinion. I know what I'm talking about. You get respected. And if you don't know, hey, just ask. Someone's willing to tell you about this, or they're willing to explain, like, why it is that they don't like what's going on because of this reason, whatever it is, whether it's JJ destroying Star Trek. And I am also not a fan of the 2009 Star Trek. I'm not a Trek fan necessarily, but when I watched that movie, I was expecting an actual origins film because I knew at least a little bit about the origins of the characters.
Yeah.
And then he turned Kirk into a rebel without a clue. And I'm like, how does that work? I'm like, even an outsider, we're looking and going, that just sucks.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, like that really is no different. Never had any issues. But at the same time, if you come in acting like you know what you're talking about, and then harassing people who call you out for not knowing what you're talking about, that's where I start calling people out. Like, all right, like, yeah, like you basically just showed you have, jack shit.
Yeah,
So
and tried to play it off.
And that's how, again, that's how it's been for me within like any fandom I was part of. So.
What about, obviously, like I said earlier, obviously you're a Star Wars fan. Mm-hmm. What got you interested in Mara Jade?
I liked her because, I mean, like it basically, it's like cliche given like, what we've been like up against with the emergence of third and fourth wave feminism. But I like the fact that she was a strong character. Like, didn't matter that she was a woman. She was a strong character. She had a feistiness to her that I kind of related to, because I'm surprised. I'm kind of sarcastic. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm kind of sarcastic, and so forth. And I got that vibe from her. She could handle herself. She could like give as well as she could take, like, verbally as well as like physically, sparring with Luke's clone. Spoiler alert if you haven't read the Thrawn trilogy. Sorry about that. But like, she was like a strong character. Just a strong character. And I related to that. I wanted to emulate my life a little bit around that in terms of how I handled myself in situations, how I grew up, how I presented myself. And she became my favorite character right like after reading the Thrawn trilogy. I should say that she's my favorite character, with a very close second being Jaina Solo.
Yes.
But it wasn't because like she was a woman. It was because they were good characters. It was because they were good characters.
Did you? I'm sure you have. You read Thrawn when Thrawn went, or not Thrawn, Zahn. When Timothy Zahn went back and like wrote her almost like her origin story. Mm-hmm. Man, there's a scene in that where the stormtrooper unit in that book busts into this police station, and they've got their stormtrooper gear on, and some of the stuff he wrote is just like, man, I never wanted to be a stormtrooper. This guy that created Mara Jade, Timothy Zahn, he made me want to be a stormtrooper. I'll be a son of a bitch if he didn't, because the way these guys go in her book, in her origin book, it was just like one of those, hell yeah, kick some ass, take some names. And Pod Racing Palpatine, £4.99 super chat. Boon to Eve was yesterday, and boy, did I slay them all. Couldn't have done it without y'all's love and support. Sharing the winnings. Thank you so very much, Pod Racing Palpatine. You guys keep the fires burning bright in Valhalla, and I will play you Skull at the end of this interview. Thank you guys so very much. It was fun getting to read more about her. Mm-hmm. And I could almost tell that some of the authors, like the gentleman who wrote the Jedi Academy trilogy used her almost very sparingly. It's like he almost didn't know what to do and didn't want to mess with her. And Zahn didn't come back and write more books till later. It's like we got the Thrawn trilogy and then poof, he was gone. And then I think it was a decade and a half later, he started writing more Star Wars books. And I was like, holy crap, we're getting more. And we got more about Mara. We got more about Mara and Luke. We got more about Thrawn. We got all these cool books. And Star Wars was, for the people that were reading the book, Star Wars was in an awesome place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's again, it's one of the narratives people were pushing particularly post The Last Jedi, and that is, Star Wars is dead, and Kathleen Kennedy saved it from the precipice of falling down this bottomless chasm. And I'm like, well, no, because while we didn't have any movies necessarily, we had the books, we had the comics, we had the games. Star Wars was very much alive.
Yes. Keeping up with the games, there were so many games. Knights of the Republic. You had Jedi Knight, the Jedi Knight Outcast, or was it Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy trilogy? Yeah. Before that, it was Dark Forces and Dark Forces 2. There were so many games. LucasArts was saturating the market with Star Wars games, and Mara Jade even had her own game. They did a expansion pack to Dark Forces 2, and she had her own game. She had her own damn game.
Yeah, whenever I'm able to afford to get a PC, because right now I have an Apple laptop, I'd like to whenever I'm in the a better living situation and I can have a separate PC, I do want to go back and play some of those games, maybe stream them so you can see what this game was. It's was it perfect necessarily? Graphics wise, no, but it was they're fun. Yeah. And they kept the fires burning, the proverbial fires burning. So if we didn't have a movie, oh well, guess what? We're still entertained with these characters. And we still saw, particularly the big three, Luke, Leia, and Han, grow in the EU. Actually continue on the path they were on, not revert to their pre-New Hope selves that we saw in the Disney movies.
Do you think that is why some people are Jade and see what I did with how Star Wars turned out?
I think that's a big reason why. It's because even as disappointed as I was when Disney came out and said we are decanonizing the EU, if they had just done what the EU did in a way where it's you see the progression of the characters and we actually had good storytelling, I think for the most part people would have been relatively okay with that. So they still would have been unhappy in a way with having the books they grew up with kind of pushed to the side, but at least they would have it would have been good storytelling, and we didn't get that. And the other sin that JJ in particular committed was he had the big three in The Force Awakens essentially, and no scenes at all together.
Yep.
No scenes at all together, and that was basically a cardinal sin. You don't do that. You don't. First off, you don't assassinate the character developments that we saw throughout the original trilogy. Basically, it's like what happened in 4, 5, and 6 didn't matter. So you not only do that, but you have Han, Leia, and Luke in one movie, and you couldn't have one scene of them meeting, having a reunion of sorts. Whatever the plot is in that story, just being in the same scene together. You couldn't have that. Yeah. I think that's when a lot of people were kind of starting to get out of Star Wars because of that in particular.
Well, they are the holy trilogy. The holy trinity of Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah. It's you. There wasn't one and that's another issue a lot of us had with the Disney movies, and that was that it was essentially marketed as a one protagonist arc. Our focus was Rey, Palpatine, and everyone else was around her. Everyone else was helping her not building each other up. Whereas with the original trilogy, with the Holy Trinities, you call them, Han, Luke, and Leia, they were like, as someone described it a while ago when all this was going down, like legs on a stool. You have like a 3-legged stool, you remove one of the legs, it falls over, it can't stand. So they weren't, the original trilogy just wasn't entirely focused on one, or at least it wasn't entirely focused on Luke, because it was essentially Luke's story in there. Luke wouldn't have been Luke if not for Han and Leia. Yep. Leia wouldn't have been in where she was if not for Han and Luke. Like they worked together. Han
would still be running around smuggling, and wouldn't have gotten into some crazy adventure where he saved a princess.
Yeah, exactly. They like whatever weaknesses they had, the other strengths would counter that. So they were basically just stronger together than separately. And that's in comparison or contrast to the sequel trilogy, where it's like, hey, here's our one main character that you have to relate to, and everyone else around her are essentially MacGuffins helping her get from point A to whatever point down the road. That's it. That's what they relegated the supporting characters to. So, like, Poe was there just to move Rey's story along, essentially. Finn was there just essentially move Rey's story along. And it's not what Star Wars is about.
No. It was always about that team, team effort, working together as a team. And when you've got what they did to Finn was criminal.
I mean, I thought he was going to be a Jedi. I would have been fine with if Finn had been like. When I say fine, I don't necessarily mean happy. But if they had like made Finn, the Finn character, essentially like the Kyle Katarn character of the Disney movies, I would have been fine with that. Then you could have had this perfect mental in a way butting of heads between Finn and Luke, because Finn would be being trained as a Jedi, but then he would have this resentment almost of like, how he was brought up in the First Order, being like taken as a child, and then hearing how the Jedi used to take children as Jedi, and then you would have had that butting of heads would have been perfect. But it's still at the same time building up a mutual respect with each other. No, he's a janitor, and he's a comic relief in The Last Jedi.
I thought maybe he was like special ops, because that team that goes down with Kylo at the beginning, you would expect them to be like the best of the best, almost like his personal guard.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And my first thought on that was this is going to be like a special forces stormtrooper that is like, no. And if they would have done that, if they'd have been like, kill everyone, kill all these civilians, and he had to do that and he didn't fire. But he has been trained to be this elite special ops guy that follows Kylo around. At least then he's got this hard, even if he doesn't become a Jedi, he's got this hard ass outer shell that they're going to have to kind of crack into and get him to the point where in like the last movie, he's finally is starting to open up and be emotional instead of being cut off from everything. It's like, we taught you to cut yourself off. They cut me off from everything to train me to be this killer, to be this special ops sniper, whatever they could have made him. And that would have been better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It would have been better. Absolutely, it would have been better, because it would have added to the psychological nature of his character, where it's like, like basically to bring him to that point where he's like, by the third movie, he's ready, he's willing to accept people, like actually closer connections with people, and not keep them at arm's length. It would have been maybe done well with like Luke maybe finally breaking through to him.
Yeah, and Rey could have been oblivious to that. They didn't trust Finn, and he's former FTR. What's FTR? First Order Tactics and Recon, or some shit like that. They're the most cold-blooded killers in the galaxy, and they kill women and children and all this stuff. And Rey could be like, that's not true. And that right there would have been a better dynamic. Instead, oh, I'm the janitor.
Yeah,
I'm the
I'm
janitor.
the janitor, and that brings up another point. Another issue I had with the movies is that the Resistance is damn lucky that they didn't get their asses handed to them from the inside, because they willingly brought Finn in. What you trust him? Why? Because he rescued Poe? Have you not heard of the fifth column? Or anything like that? Have you not heard, like, hey, like, maybe you don't want to trust someone who's been brought up in the First Order necessarily readily? Like again, like, you know, it basically is just storytelling 101. You build a world, and whatever characters are in the world, like, the rules have to make sense. The decisions have to make sense. So it does not make sense for the Resistance, who are fighting the First Order, to willingly, naively bring in a First Order trooper just because he rescued one of their own. Like, I'd be like, you know, I'm keeping you at arm's length until I know for sure I can trust you.
Exactly. And that's not how they did it. That's not how they wanted to do it. Disney couldn't get one step deep into what we are talking about right now because it was all shallow.
Yeah.
Go 13, aka Brandon, the Infinite Wolf with the $5 super chat. Judgment passed on Disney trilogy. Verdict, get it. Sentence, Loki, you know what to do. Indeed, I do, sir, and I will be playing a couple of skulls on the way out today. So we will get those at the end of the show. Keep your eyes peeled. We're going to play those at the end of the show. Do you think that certain people, including Disney, because I believe this, used what they knew what people's reaction would be? You turn Luke into a green soy titty milk drinking bum. They couldn't have not known. And Mark Hamill tried to warn people. He did. He tried to warn people. You're not going to like this.
Yeah. I think they knew. They just did not care, because it was all about whatever agenda they could put in there. And Luke, unfortunately, aside what you think of Mark Hamill as a person, Luke is a toxic white male in their eyes. We can't have a white male, especially, being the hero of the movie. We cannot have that. We cannot have that. Like, him be, and JJ even said, like, you know, like, the reason why he didn't have Luke in the Force Awakens really at all until the end was because he would have stolen every scene he was in. And I'm sitting there going, well, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, he's
Luke Skywalker.
He's a Jedi Master.
Yes, and like he's the reason, or one of the 3 reasons we're coming to see this movie. Like, we see him in the trailer wearing the Jedi robes, looking like a Grand Master, because he becomes a Grand Master in the EU, and we don't see him until the end.
What the hell happened to those robes?
I don't understand.
Yeah, where did the robes go? He's got these beautiful white looking robes, and then he spends 1 minute, I think, in them, where just long enough to throw the lightsaber over his shoulder and throw it away, and then he goes and changes, and he's in like this black hobo fishing outfit, and you're just like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. I mean, like, I would have, in a way, accepted him being on the island if the reason he gave for being on the island was the First Order confined me. Like, because, like, basically, the first, you have Snoke, who's able to use the Force. He's like, the First Order confined me through the Force. I don't want to endanger those around me. So I'm going to come to this island that's, I guess, in a sense, like Dagobah, essentially. Like, Dagobah was kind of like a dark side nexus, so it would cloud Yoda using the Force, or if I'm wording that correctly. But anyway, that's how Yoda was able to hide on Dagobah. So if, like, Luke said himself, I'll find a similar place, and said, I have to cut myself off in this way, because if I don't, Han and Leia and Chewie and C-3PO and R2-D2 and everyone else connected to them will be in danger if I don't. I would have accepted that more, and then have him train Finn and Rey, maybe, but like Finn on that island. It's like, it's like, okay, like, and like have Finn come to find Luke. It's like, you need to come back into this. Like they're in danger no matter what, and they can't do it without you. And Luke says something like, they can't do it without us, and he trains Finn. And then Luke comes back in all his Jedi glory, not as a fucking force projection, but in all his Jedi glory. And can you imagine the cheers that would have erupted in the theater?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. Like that. Like, how am I coming up with a better story than Disney? I mean, I know that's a rhetorical question, but still, like, how am I coming up with a better story than Disney? And I'm just like, all it takes is like just changes here and there, like not disrespecting the characters. That's all it took.
Yeah. If Luke had trained both of them, and trained Finn and trained Rey, and then at the end of the second movie, Rey had turned to the dark side, and you had this confrontation between Finn and Rey in the last movie with Kylo heckling. You don't even know about the Emperor. You don't even know about the Emperor till like the last 5 minutes of the movie or some shit. And that's when Rey and Finn both turn and combine their power in the Force to just like blast his essence or whatever. You never really get a physical clone. Something that said, I have been the one that's been in, whatever at the last minute. Big reveal. Big. Oh my God, it's the Emperor, but he's not like in an actual human form or whatever. And they both, we are the Force, that would have been epic. I could have lived with that.
I mean, my brother even said, like, after The Last Jedi came out, that he would have essentially forgiven, like not entirely, but essentially would have forgiven The Last Jedi if the end scene of that movie had been Rey turning to the dark side. Like, Rey turning to the dark side and Kylo having his eyes opened and Kylo going to the Resistance and saying, or Kylo being the one trying to warn the Resistance, because Rey is within the Resistance. He's like she is the one you have to be afraid of. She's the one you have to worry about. But people trust her, so she's able to manipulate that around her to her advantage in a way, and things like that. He's like, I would have almost accepted that, but no, she's still good. She's still no dark side can touch her, Rey, by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's like, so it's again, it's like we're looking at this going, we can come up with a better story. And Disney's been around for decades, but creativity has died, I think. So
the fact that we're still talking about this years after Last Jedi came out, and nobody ever, I never hear anybody mention Rise of Skywalker. And it's just that movie did nothing to help.
I didn't bother to see it, but that's the impression I got.
I watched it opening night. I watched it from my home. Back then, you couldn't watch movies at your home opening night, but I watched it from home, and I was just like, this is like Rey breathing heavily, running around like a crazy chicken with her head cut off from place to place, and there's no consistency with what's going on. The hyper jumping at the beginning of the movie is got to be the worst "are you an idiot" moment. I'm like, JJ, dude, you know sci-fi. Why do you have him jumping in gravitational fields, in planets, random hyperspace, whatever it was, pond hopping? Ugh. It's like hopping on a pond. No, dude, hyperspace doesn't work like that.
No, yeah. No, it doesn't work like that. And I'm friends with Raging Rhino, and like he saw that, and like he just about had a conniption.
Yeah.
He just about had a conniption. So, but yeah, it's and even also when The Force Awakens came out and everything, and I was having to explain the concept of hyperspace, because people would always describe hyperspace as light speed. I'm like, that's not what hyperspace is. Hyperspace is traveling outside of normal space. That's like literally the definition is in the name. you might be traveling at light speed when you were in hyperspace, but hyperspace is not light speed. And I'm trying to explain this to people because of what happened with the last Jedi with the I don't want to say her name, but Holdo hyperspace ramming in a way the First Order fleet. I think it wouldn't have worked like that. I'm trying to explain to these people, and they would come back to me and goes, "Well, Han said in A New Hope that hyperspace is not like dusting crops. If if you do this, then you'll end up in the middle of a planet and like
bounce too close to a meteor shower."
Yeah. As well, it does not mean he will blow up the planet. It just means your day will end really badly.
Yes.
That's all that means. But they took it as like, if you ended up in the middle of a planet, you'd blow the planet up. Hence, it made sense for what she did. And I'm like, no, it's not how it works.
Yeah, Mark Damon tired. You can't hyperspace skip. Gravity wells would destroy the ship. It's been explained the reason nav computers are around is to avoid gravity and mass shadows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it will your best outcome is it will pull you out of hyperspace, and that will be it.
So basically,
Empire had ships that could do that.
Yeah, and like basically, so if she tried something like that and she got close to that first order dreadnought, it would have pulled her out of hyperspace, and she would just like bounce off like a bug on a windshield.
Yep.
That's all that would have happened in that instance, but.
And they had that tech. The Empire had that tech when Vader was there.
Mm-hmm.
They just created a artificial gravity well around a ship. And what they would do is they would park a couple of them in a hyperspace lane that people normally used for like trade traffic. And they'd pull ships out and inspect them. Hey, what are you carrying? Hey, what are you carrying? It's like a roadblock.
Yeah, because as Han Solo even said, like, in A New Hope, like he had special compartments essentially for that reason. And he's like, I never thought I'd be smuggling myself. And as they're like popping out of the floor. So that was his job. He had to figure out ways to get through those little roadblocks that were set up. Yeah.
Interdictors. Thank you, Robert Verlinden. Mm-hmm. Yes. Imperial interdictors. The interdictor Star Destroyer, Mark. The infinitely tired, yes.
Yeah, so
if they had that then, there's no, you're not hyperspace through a ship.
No.
The Holdo maneuver. The Holdo maneuver.
Yeah, I know. Oh my god. Yeah, I already have a headache, and I'm like, just like, oh fuck.
Oh yeah, no. The purple hair test. The purple hair. Yeah. Never trust purple hair people, says Badass.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the EU's still there. All those books are still there. They're releasing. I lost a couple of books. Had to replace a couple of books because I've got almost the entire EU collection. But one book is one from the New Jedi Order series that got chewed on by a dog and puppy, and that puppy chewed that book all up, and they were out of print. This was one of the last books they released, and I looked for it on eBay, and it was like, I think it was like $190 on eBay. I was like, damn, why is it? Well, they only made a limited run of it in hardback, and I will only buy them in hardback. So I've got a couple of paperback novels, but usually I only buy them in hardback. I'm like, God, because it was the end of the series and they only made so many hardbacks, and then that was it. They didn't do a second run. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know.
So the fact that Disney's going to re-release them, hopefully unedited. Hopefully they aren't edited in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really have no faith in Disney, but if Disney had been smart, they would have brought in the existing EU authors and continued where the EU left off.
Yep.
Or even bringing the EU authors in and penning scripts for the movies. Like say, hey, if you want to know what happens up to this point where our movie begins, here are these books. Boom. And then pick up where the last book ended, or essentially. So you have Jaina solo, Han solo, Leia solo. Would have been nice to see Jason solo, but at that point, he wasn't there. But
he wasn't there.
But still, like it would have been characters that people who had been reading the EU knew and essentially grew up with, and they could have continued it that way. And then those people who read the EU would say to the essentially newcomers, like, oh, you want to know more about this? Start here. Like, that's how fandoms work. You bring people in who want to know more about it and say, this is where you start. And that's how you build up fandoms. You don't alienate existing fans to bring new ones in. That's the existing fans are the ones that bring new ones in, because the existing fans are the ones that are praising whatever it is coming out. Not the new ones. The new ones coming in had know nothing, and they might get their interest piqued. They might like it. They might not. They're not the ones who will stay. The ones who have been here the longest will stay if you essentially don't shit on everything that they've paid into with the books and comics and so forth. That's how it works. And Disney's not smart.
No. Well, hell, they could have kept them. They could have kept them in Legends and still had the crews that had been writing for Lucas. They could have kept those crews and still said, okay, this is separate than what we are doing now. That's simple. The books are a separate universe, and just kept it at that. And you could have made new books for the follow-ups to the movies. And I think that there were some, but I couldn't read them. I tried to read one that came after Force Awakens, and I was like, God, this is just, it's like almost dry. There's no heart to it at all.
Yeah.
I just couldn't read it. And I just chalked it up to, well, they've got some, I may have even been a Pablo Hidalgo. I don't know who the hell wrote it. I don't remember. I know I don't have that book anymore. And I love Star Wars books.
Yeah.
But it's just not the way, it's not the way it turned out.
And at this point, that would probably be one of the only ways to save Star Wars, or at least in a sense, and that would be, I don't like having separate timelines necessarily, because Star Wars in itself is not a multiverse, but at the same time, it's have the EU timeline, say, okay, here's this timeline, and then here's the Disney timeline. You pick which one you enjoy most, and then just go from there. Essentially, that's really the only way, because right now Disney is cherry picking from the EU characters and watering them down to the point where they're almost unrecognizable. And now you have this rumor re-emerging, and it's not new, folks. It's not new. People are treating it like it's new, but it's not. That Brie Larson might be cast as Mara Jade in the upcoming Disney film or show or whatever. And I'm like, so again, it would not be the Mara Jade that we know from the EU, because you completely screwed over Luke's character. Yep. So she wouldn't be connected to Luke at all. So it's not the Mara Jade that we would know. And at the same time, I'm like, fuck it, just do it. I'm out of Disney Star Wars, so I'm watching burn from the outside. So just bring her in at this point. I don't care.
Did the end of Mandalorian season 2 change anything for you?
To be honest, I have not watched The Mandalorian.
Okay.
But it essentially did not change anything for me, because to me, it was like, I'm not trying to pan anyone that enjoyed the Luke Skywalker moment. I'm not. If you enjoyed it, more power to you. I'm not trying to disrespect your enjoyment at all. But to me, it felt like they were just dangling the keys in front of people and saying, you remember nostalgia, right? You remember nostalgia. You remember Luke Skywalker. Here's the Luke Skywalker that should have been in the sequel trilogy. But at the same time, it's like I'm looking at this going, yeah, that Luke Skywalker is going to turn into Luke we know, because you're connecting the Mandalorian to the sequels. Jon Favreau himself has pretty much said so.
I got an before we get out of here real quick, I'll share this with you. I got an email right before Rise of the Skywalker came out. And that email consisted of a source that was feeding me rumor information and things that they had heard from people at Lucasfilm. And there was a long, detailed description about Ahsoka returning in a new Disney series, and that they would use the veil They were going to use the veil to fix things in this trilogy. And I just blew it off at the time. I was like, dude, you're smoking crack. You really are. And then they brought Ahsoka back in Mandalorian season 2. And then the veil got brought up. And then I started thinking, what would people's reaction be if Ahsoka really did change how things happened? And suddenly you have a scene of Luke at a ceremony at the Jedi Academy, the one you see, the burning in the you never even really see it, the one you see burning in the teasers for the sequel trilogy. And he is marrying Rey and Kylo. Kylo never joins the Order, never becomes Kylo. And you see from behind you Han and Leia. You never see their face, and Leia's kind of like leaning her head on Han's shoulder. That would be like, and I have absolutely no faith now that they're going to do this. I don't. I really don't. I think all of these rumors and all these teases and all these people talking about this, because I don't talk rumors. I don't. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because the person had a point that I didn't see, that I just blew off. Man, I'm like, holy shit, now everybody's talking about this. And I knew about this because I don't talk rumors. I don't like talking rumors. If I want to know, is this happening or is this not happening? But just the idea of that you could see Luke marrying Rey and Kylo never going to the dark side, and then you see Han and Leia standing there holding each other at the wedding. I was just like, holy shit, that's what could have happened. What could have happened? Do I have any faith that would ever happen in the future? No, because I absolutely no faith in Disney. I won't even review Loki. I won't even review the new series that's coming out. And I'm going to burn it to the ground because I already know what's going to happen. You're going to have Fem Loki in the majority of it. And it's not even really Fem Loki. It's not the hot, busty brunette you got in the comics. It's this blonde, flat chick that's going to take over. You're just like, wow, you guys are morons.
I mean, as far as the veil, like I said, I've checked out of Disney Star Wars, but for me, I think like the part, like I wouldn't exactly be thrilled with it because essentially to me, it'd be like using the concept of time travel to fix something. And that's not exactly how the world between worlds works necessarily, because you don't exactly have separate timelines. But at the same time, if you're still invested in Disney Star Wars and they do it and you enjoy it, again, more power to you. More power to you. I don't like telling anybody what they can and cannot watch. I don't like telling anybody what they can and cannot enjoy. If you don't like it, basically vote with your wallet. Don't see it. If you do enjoy it, then again, support it. Just because I don't doesn't mean that anybody else should. Is basically how I go about things right now. So doesn't matter if I agree or not. So if something like this happens and if hell freezes over and this happens and it turns out good, all right, then congratulations, you got what you wanted. I'm happy for you. I'm just going to stick with the EU, but I'll be happy for anybody who gets what they want within Disney Star Wars or Star Trek or Doctor Who or whatever. If anything gets fixed, I will be happy for those people.
Yeah, but you're done.
I'm essentially done. I mean, I will talk Star Wars. I do like talking good Star Wars. I've been talking with it's a channel called Open Airlock Policy. His name is Tim, and he has videos called Expanded University. So at one point I was on his channel not too long ago and said, it's like I'm kind of slowly coming back into talking about Star Wars, but I want to talk about good Star Wars. I don't want to talk about Disney Star Wars. If I talk about Disney Star Wars, I start getting ticked off, and I don't want to get ticked off on talking about Star Wars.
Agreed. Well, thank you for being here, guys. Thank you so much for being here and catching us with Mara Jade. Her links are in the description of this show, and I know my mods have been throwing them out. Guys, if you are not subscribed to Mara Jade, who wants to talk good Star Wars, not Disney Star Wars, check out her channel. If you like it, subscribe and bang that bell, guys. That is what we love to see. That, believe me, we all love to see that, and the more the merrier. Mexican Iron Man $4.99 super chat. Great show. Shameless end show plug. Vote for Mexican Iron Man in Fandom collective poll. Hail Hyperspace. Thanks, Loki and Jade. Great script ideas. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mexican Iron Man. Guys, thank you so very much. I am going to run 2 skulls real quick, guys. Thank you for keeping the fires burning bright in Valhalla. Skull!
Skull.
And we're going to burn it down with some dragon fire. One more for you guys. Skulls! And no, Steven, I didn't miss it. I've got it. Fat Steven Seagal with a $2 Canadian super chat. Hi, Mara, first time caller. Favorite Seagal movie?
You know what? I have to go with Under Siege just because every time I see Fat Steven Seagal, he says my voice line is Under Siege, so I got to go with Under Siege.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Fat Steven Seagal, for that $2 super chat. Skull!
A dollar? I've never seen a dollar. Nobody's got a dollar. Let us see the dollar. There it is. It's beautiful. Take your hat off, boy. That's a dollar bill.
All right, guys, we're out of here. Make sure you check out Mara Jade's channel. I will not be back. I'm gone, guys. I'm out. Tomorrow morning, we are going to have a special best of series on Mexican Iron Man, and then Mexican Iron Man will be taking over the show on Friday. I will not be back until the movie watch party on Saturday, and then we'll be back Monday. So everyone, and again, big thank you to Mara Jade. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute treat. Thank you. I love talking good Star Wars and sometimes talking bad Star Wars too. But thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Everybody take care and have a great one. Purple Valkyrie's coming up in a little over an hour. You guys make sure to check her out. Take it easy, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.
See ya.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.